Lately, I've developed a bad habit of over-consuming YouTube and social media. Without even realizing it, I've traded in a large chunk of my time and attention in exchange for cheap dopamine hits and an endless stream of mindless content. And I've been making justifications for why this is a good thing. Excuses like, I need this to unwind, this is good because I need to know what's going on in the world, what if I miss out on something, this is self-care. But I knew something had to change when a while ago I was trying to read a book and I couldn't stay focused for longer than 10 minutes without needing to check my phone. My overconsumption has begun to affect my attention span, my productivity, and my overall mood, and I realized that I'm spending less and less time on the most important things in my life, things like growing my business and nurturing relationships. So I've decided to quit consuming content online altogether for the next 14 days to see if it'll improve my productivity and mental health, or will it make me more miserable because I'm missing out on all the amazing content that everyone else around me is consuming. I know that if I want to actually complete this challenge, I'm going to need to think strategically, and I'm going to need to prepare the battlefield so that I win beforehand. So the first thing I'm going to do is completely dumb down my smartphone and block all distracting websites and apps from both my phone and my laptop. For this, I'm using Reisu's fantastic guide on turning your smartphone into a dumb phone. I'm leaving a link to his video in the description if you're interested. The rules of the experiment. For 14 days, no YouTube, no Instagram, no Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok. No Netflix, and no podcasts. The only content I allowed myself to consume were books and online courses because they're educational and not distracting to me. The first few days were challenging. I realized how unconscious and automatic my use of digital devices had become. I'm noticing myself impulsively trying to access YouTube and other social media services on my phone without even thinking. Fortunately, I have the website blockers on, so I can't actually access those websites. But without them, man, this would be a challenge. I think this would be pretty much impossible for me. After the first week, though, things got a bit easier. I realized that as long as I had something to do to replace my old habit of watching content, I was good to go. Scrolling my phone got replaced by my Kindle. On work breaks, I took walks in nature to give my brain the recharge it was craving. Man, I'm realizing just how rejuvenating it is to have these periods during the day where you just completely disconnect from the digital world, you disconnect from your work, and you just give your brain that chance to recharge and get re-inspired. Overall, I found that I had more time and space to think and reflect on things for myself because I wasn't constantly flooding my mind with other people's opinions and ideas. 14 days of no content have passed. Here are my final thoughts on the experiment. Removing online content from your mental diet will make you feel like you've just freed up a bunch of RAM in your brain that you can now use for something more productive. I noticed a significant increase in my own attention span, especially doing deep work. I found that actually the work that I was doing, namely writing and video editing, those things became more exciting to me because they weren't constantly being contrasted with, the breaks that I have where I'm just watching some high stimulation, instant gratification content, which is like so prevalent on the internet these days. So the peak excitement for the day for me was my work, which made it easier for me to get into the flow state and easier for me to focus for long periods of time without getting distracted. Another thing I noticed was I became better at managing my time. This is something that I struggled with a lot in the past because I'm not naturally like a really timetable oriented type of person. But for some reason, just because I stopped consuming content, well, first of all, I got like 2 extra hours in each day just from stopping content. And having this extra time just made me a bit more conscious of how I'm spending my time in general throughout the day. And it just made me a bit more vigilant with staying on a timetable and not wasting time. Overall, the big thing that I got out of this experiment was a clearer perspective of how I want to engage with digital devices and with online content in general going into the future. I've come to the conclusion that about 80% of the content that I consume on a regular basis is just fluff. It's basically unnecessary, but then there is that 20% of content that is really meaningful. It does add to my life in a significant way, and it brings me joy. I want to make sure that I'm consuming that 20% and really just leaving out the 80%. And the main strategy I'm going to use to achieve this is using the website blockers and the app blockers more religiously. And if you're interested in doing an experiment similar to this one, maybe you want to quit content or quit social media for 7 days or 14 days or even longer, I've left a link to a digital detox checklist in the description of this video. It has a list of a bunch of resources and things to consider before doing the detox to ensure that it's successful. And if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, there's also a link to that. Currently, I offer one free coaching call for anyone who's interested. This is a proper coaching call, so take it seriously. If you're interested in that, you can schedule it down below, and I'll talk to you then.